Afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining today's webinar all around the TVision add-ons that we have available for your business. Just grabbing the slides, thank you. So my name is Danusha Jolliffe. I'm the Marketing and Customer Services Director here at TVision. As always, I will be paying attention to the chat box for you. So if you have any questions at all that you'd like to ask Ian as he goes through, then please do type them in either into the chat or into the question box. We'll aim to answer as we go along or at an appropriate time. And if we need to, we can send our answers offline afterwards. A recording of this webinar will also be made available and will be included in the monthly TVision newsletter that will be sending out to you. Ian, over to you.
Okay, a couple of things that we're going to be speaking about today is TVision add-ons, or if you're on BC, you might be used to calling them extensions. So add-ons, extensions, they're kind of the same thing. We've got a list of add-ons that we can give for your company. I'm going to be looking at a few of them today. Hopefully, I can get through these samples just so you can get a feel for what add-ons can do for you. I'm going to be doing this on Business Central rather than on Nav, but we do have them available on Nav, on TVision, on Business Central. Slightly different versions, so they've all got a slightly different feel depending which version you're on. So, looking at Business Central, the latest and greatest, I have two companies open here. I've got this demo company open where I've added a few of these extension add-ons, and I've got a base company with nothing added on, just so we can see the difference if we need to between having them and not having them. If you are on Business Central and you want to know which add-ons do you have installed on your system, you can always just hit that little search button up there and you can search for extension management. And on extension management, you will see everything that you have installed on your system. So most of this comes from Microsoft, but you can see I've installed the BACS add-on, Credit Control Notepad, Currency on GLEs, Excel Import to GL, and there was one more, TVision Reports. Unfortunately, on Nav, you don't get that level of visibility. This is something new in Business Central. But you can always ask us if you think you've got, or if you think you might want. Give us a shout, we'll let you know if you've got it or not. So different add-ons, they offer different things to your business. So one of them that I've installed is the TVision report layouts. So when you get Nav or Business Central, it comes built in with some reports from Microsoft for your sales invoices, purchase orders, customer statements, credit returns, credit memos, etc. Those documents are pre-built in, but they're ugly, or should we say utilitarian. They've got what you need, but not much else, and they're very American-centric. Here in the UK, we do business slightly differently, and we like things to look slightly different. So if you were on a bare bones Nav system or a bare bones Business Central system, and say you went to your customers to do customer statements, which I think is under reports. Yep, statements. This is the standard Microsoft setup. It asks for a start and an end date. I'll just make that a little bit more reasonable. The first of the first 23. And let's make sure it's for preview. I say, okay, it's going to build me some customer statements, and they work, and they're perfectly correct. This is what they look like. You can see it's downloading a Word document. And we can get a preview of the standard statement. It's got every transaction, even though there's nothing outstanding. This isn't the way we do things here in the UK. So we want to do it slightly differently. What I have done here, I've installed that extension. Now your end users, they don't see anything. It looks identical. They would still go to the customer's page. And once they've got the customers page open, they would still click on reports. They would still select statement. But now they get a slightly different report screen. It only wants an end date. It doesn't want a start and an end date. I'm in preview mode. I say OK. It's going to create me a slightly different report. This time it's PDF. And on this one, it only shows the open entries. It doesn't show me stuff that's been paid in the past. So this is a more English-centric layout. This is what the extension does for you. It does not look very exciting, but it's what your customers expect from you. And it's kind of invisible to your end users. It just happens in the background. There's a little bit of setup that you do just to say, use these reports. Once you've done it, you never need to look at it again. It just works. So that's the first really simple kind of add-on that we do for you. Another one that we've got, which is slightly more advanced, is the BACS file output. So if you're doing business in the UK, you're doing payments to your vendors, you want to send a file to your bank to do those payments. If we install the BACS file, I've done that for Barclays Bank on this system, but we have this available for all the major banks in the UK, Lloyds, Royal Bank of Scotland, HSBC, NatWest is another one that we've got here. So all the big banks, we've already got those file formats. The smaller banks, you'll find that they're using the same formats as the big banks. So we can do it for any bank within the UK. If I go and look at a payment journal, and I did prepare a payment journal a little earlier, hopefully it's there. My system's a wee bit slow. Yep, so I've got two payments that I'm making here. I'm using BACS payment methods. And the only thing that's changed is when I go to the bank section, I have the button to export, and when I export this file, it has created a CSV, and this is in the format that my bank expects to receive this file. Without this extension, it goes to the bank in a SEPA, S-E-P-A format, which is a European format, not a UK format. So this is something, again, very utilitarian. Your end user doesn't see much except the file looks slightly different to the file that you would get in Europe. Really easy, you set it up once and it just works then carrying forwards. So that's a really handy, simple add-on. Now the next one is one of our favorite add-ons. A lot of our clients use this one, and that's import a journal from Excel. So on my desktop, I have prepared a journal in Excel, and it's a really simple journal. I've put in the minimum amount of columns that I could possibly put in on this journal. Basically, it's just a date, account number, and an amount, not much else. Yep, there we go. A posting date, document number, GL account, the amount, and some description. I've put in some dimensions as well, just because the system can handle dimensions. Now, if I'm doing a really big journal, it's much more comfortable for me to work here in Excel rather than trying to do everything on the system. Once I've done that, I can simply go to my general journals, and then on the general journal page, I get an option. I'll just let the page finish loading. I get an option. I'm sorry, things are live, they're going slow today. Import from Excel. This is a new button that's been added. So this is the first one where you see, ooh, there's actually a change to the interface. Some new functionality has been added. What's the worksheet that I want to import? I can browse to select that file, which was on my desktop. And I call it Demo GL Journal. Okay, I tell it there is one row for the headings. I can map this to a mapping code, which will map the columns in my Excel workbook to the columns here on my page. I've half finished doing this work, so I'm just going to say OK. Now the system has detected that there's something in my spreadsheet that has not yet been mapped. Does it want me to try and do this automatically? I will say yes. And I know which one it couldn't map. It couldn't map that dimension. It doesn't know where to put it here in my actual journal. So I just need to tell it, map that column to, and there we go, the department code dimension.
Does it normally get it right when you do automatic mapping?
It gets almost everything right. The dimensions it struggles with because every system could have different dimensions. Mine is department, yours might be cost center, project, customer, region. But I've told it that once, I say OK. Do I want to save this? So next time I won't have to tell it again. Yes, please. It didn't find any errors. Yes, please, import. And it has created the journal form. If there were any errors with an invalid GL account or a dodgy date or something, it would have given me a warning. Let me go back to my Excel and fix that. And here it is with, I think if we scroll across, we will see the departments. Yep, the departments, even dimensions get pulled on. And there's a journal ready for posting. You can well imagine in a finance department, if you're doing recharge journals for 10, 15 departments, and you're doing the stationery and the rent and the electricity and the cleaning, suddenly it's, you know, a 100-line journal, much easier in Excel, copy, paste, and then import. And the beautiful thing is, it doesn't matter if you change the order of your columns on the screen, that mapping still maps them automatically. It doesn't matter if the person with the Excel workbook changes the order of the columns, the mapping still works. So this is a really nice tool. You could also use it if you have a third-party system that you want to send information. If it can create an Excel workbook or a CSV file, which is in effect Excel, then you can start importing from third-party systems into your journals. So it's a nice way to do a very basic integration with a third-party system. The next one I want to show you is a huge difference. So one of the bigger add-ons that we do is the credit control notepad. So the credit control notepad is so big, it even gives you a whole new role center, a whole new landing page. So I'm going to change myself to be a credit controller. So I'm going to choose my role within the company as credit controller. And I have this new page that doesn't exist on the standard nav and standard Business Central. So it's going to log me out quickly and log me back in with my new role center, my new landing page. When I say quickly, not so quick today. But you can see immediately it's taken away a lot of clutter from the screen. All the stuff that would be irrelevant to a credit controller, it's gone. And if you look at the menu options, suddenly it's a menu that's laid out for somebody who's working with sales and customers. You will notice that there are some new ways of looking at the customers. So customers aged instead of just looking at customers standard list. So there's a little bit of setup that I would do here to say that I'm a credit controller. Who are my customers that I look after? Once that's been set up, I see on my landing page, my role center, these are my customers. These 5. This is their balance. But I can go even further and I get their balance has been aged for me. So I can see who's overdue, who's current, who do I need to chase, basically. Something very important for me as a credit controller. If I get assigned a new customer, or if one of these customers is taken away from me, given to someone else, this is a fully customizable list. I can manage the list, I can add new customers, I can remove customers, etc. I'm going to leave it as it is for now. I think 5 is enough for me. I know people in credit control handle 500, but that's way too hot. And from here, if I open up any one of these customers, you're probably used to when you open a customer, you get some general information, some contact information with addresses, one field which says what their balance is. But from here, it has been changed so much. Let's have a look at trade research, why not? And if we open them up from here, it's going to give us a view of them that is more geared towards a credit controller. Immediately, I just get this general who they are, how do I contact them, and then I get a list of their open entries, what makes up the balance that they owe us. Very handy for me to look at things on this screen. And it may well be that I'm looking at this and I feel I need to phone this customer or send an email to this customer. I have an option up here to create a customer action. And this will take me through a wizard. Oh, looks like you're trying to create an action. I basically answer the questions. Who am I contacting? Trade research, yes. I can put in some information, a description of what I'm doing. Did I phone them? Did they phone me? Was it by phone? Was it by email? Did I send a letter, perhaps? I can record all of this information. I can set it to automatically close this action so that it's done and it's closed, or I can leave it open so it appears on a list for me to do something with later. I'll say just close it as part of doing it, but I can type in some notes of, what I spoke to them about, and they told me that their finance manager is aware of the PIN, whatever it might be. I can record that information, and it is recorded then against this customer. Well, it takes me to a summary of it first, where I can see exactly what was done. But it pretty much tells me everything about this, and that interaction has been recorded against this customer. Anybody can come in later, they can open it up, they can read it, see what the discussion was. It goes even further. I might choose one of these lines and say this invoice has been outstanding for so, sorry, this is the oldest one. This invoice has been outstanding for so long, I want to talk to them specifically about this invoice. From here, I can create an action about this particular entry. Again, it takes me through a wizard. Who am I talking to? It's put in some description about the remaining amount, etc. I'm not going to close this one. Next, I can tell them exactly what's going on. Sorry, one of the options there was, instead of general, it could also be an agreed payment. How much are they agreeing to pay us when? Can be recorded here. Finish that. It gets recorded as an interaction against this customer again, so that other people can read it later. It even shows exactly which document it was that we were talking about when I said, they agreed to pay the invoice in 2 installments or whatever it might be. And there's a wizard for seeing the list of my open credit control notepad actions that I still need to do something with, a wizard for closing them, a wizard for taking off the amounts that they've paid against those agreed payments. So this one adds a whole host of new functionality that just wasn't there before. Stuff that your credit control team might be spending a lot of time downloading, getting lists, putting them on Excel, who they need to phone. It's all there in the system with a record of what's going on. For anybody else, you're off on leave for a week, one of your colleagues, they can follow up, they can see exactly what you've already discussed. You don't have to do a big complicated handover. The information is on the system in one place for everyone to use. I've got a few minutes left of my demo time, so there's one more that I would like to show you, and that's currency on general ledger entries. So you will know that on your general ledger, everything is stored in your base currency. So in my case, my system is in pounds sterling. Everything is recorded in pounds. Sometimes you want more than that. Maybe you want to record what was the original currency that this was posted in. How much was this in euros or Swiss francs or South African rands? rather than just knowing what it is in pounds sterling. So we've got a little add-on. Everything is still stored in pounds sterling on your general ledger, but we also add this was the original entries amount. If I go and navigate, I did post a purchase document earlier. Let me go and find it. Purchase invoice posted purchase invoices. And it's the only one there. It was posted in US dollars for $1,500. And I put in a very generous exchange rate of about $1.50 to the pound. But if I navigate on this, if I find entries, let's go and look what it's done in the general ledger so you can just see the difference. So there are 4 entries in the general ledger. I'm just going to click on that to open them up. I could have gone to the GL account and done it that way, but I couldn't remember which GL accounts. So the first 2 are my sale and my credit control accounts. The second 2 are my cost of goods sold accounts and inventory accounts. And you can see the sale was recorded in US dollars. My costs are recorded in pounds sterling. So everything was £975. But if I scroll across a little, that's US dollars. It was entered 1,502 US dollars. And the exchange rate that I was using was 1.54 to 1. So I have that information. And you can imagine when you're pulling a sales report, it's great to pull this information of what is your total sales. But if you could pull this information as well, what currency was that in, what was the original currency, and suddenly you can start reporting what is our sales by currency instead of just what's our sales.
Ian, someone's asked about the setting the currency or the exchange rate, and how does that work? Is that an on-the-day exchange rate? At what point can you change it?
Okay, so on exchange rates, you have your standard exchange rate within the system. If you just search for currencies, always the first stop, and you can have, if you're on a newer version of NAV or Business Central, you can have an automatic exchange rate service, which will go, and it can be every hour. It can update the exchange rates for you every day, every week, every month, whatever you schedule. You can, from within here, you can go in and look at the exchange rates for a particular currency. So if you chose euros, I can see at the moment it's 0.64. I could click there, I could see the entire history of every time we've changed the exchange rate. Or if you really want to, on a particular transaction, you can type in the euro amount and the pound sterling amount, and just for that transaction, the system will calculate this was the exchange rate that you've used. So you can do it pretty much 3 ways.
Thank you.
No, not a problem. So back on that, yeah, so it gives you that extra reporting ability. The information is still there. You don't have to then go and say, oh, take them to another document where I can see what the original currency transaction was. It's all in your general ledger. It makes your reporting a lot easier. We have a load of other add-ons, and just briefly, we have intercompany sync. An intercompany sync, if I change a GL account or add a new GL account in company A, go to company B automatically and add, change that same one. Go to company C and keep all my companies in sync with the general ledger. If I add a dimension in one company, add the same dimension in all the others. Can even, if I add a customer, if I add a vendor, propagate that to all my other companies so that they have those same vendors and customers available to them. Or adding an item. You know, I've got a new flavor chocolate that I'm selling. Company A loads that new flavor chocolate, and company B, company C automatically get updated with that new flavor. So intercompany sync can be very useful if you want to keep your companies all the same. We have a divisional dimension extension where you could have multiple companies within the same NAV or Business Central company, and we use a dimension to separate the companies so that the trial balance always balances by that dimension. just makes it simple for you to record things. If you don't want the complexity of having 5 or 6 companies, you just want one company and use a dimension to report rather than having separate companies. We have a GL reconciliation add-on where you can actually go through your general ledger, choose a GL account, go through the entries, and you can reconcile them, tick them, mark that they've been reconciled as part of your month-end processes. We have table dimension. Table dimension, where dimensions can be created and assigned automatically by the system. So you add a new customer and the system will create a new dimension to go with that customer and automatically put that dimension on his sales documents or return documents that have anything to do with that customer, or with a vendor, or with an item, or with a job, etc. You can have dimensions that get created automatically and assigned. And we also have a thing called the communication engine, which is quite new. That's only really available on Business Central. That's not necessarily available on all versions of Nav. And that is a tool where we've put in its simple rules for how to communicate to third-party systems. So if they don't have, for instance, fancy APIs, it's a really old legacy system you want to talk to, the communication engine, it can figure out, oh, you can communicate using CSVs, you can set up, this is what the CSV files must look like, and it will create the files to send them to the legacy system or import files from the legacy system using various methods, you know, that aren't always the newest stuff. Sometimes we've got a really old front end that we just love using, it works, no need to change it. So we've got a communication engine that lets you talk to it without having to upgrade to the latest and greatest. That's pretty much what I wanted to speak about. Was there anything else, Tanisha?
Yeah, we have 2 more questions, one that I can answer and one that I'll pass to you. So one was, where can we find out more information about all of these add-ons? On the next slide, we actually have the URL, and it's on the TVision website under our solutions, and it says Business Central add-ons and extensions. You've got that list there. You can have a look on the website, see if there's anything that you're interested in and that you'd like to find out more about. So do get in touch. And the other question I had was, are these applied as a per user extension or in the instance of Business Central or Nav?
Okay, yep. So that's a really good question. These extensions, they are applied on an environment. So if you have your production environment with 3 separate companies, if you install the add-on or the extension, it's applied to all of those companies for all users. The way we do them, we don't charge you licensing fees, whether you've got 2 users or 20 users using them, we charge you for the extension or the add-on. We don't charge you per user. That might change in the future. Microsoft's changing the way it charges people. We might be forced to follow suit, but at the moment, we're not doing that. It's a one-off payment and you get it for the entire system. And if we've given it to you for your live production environment, we will also give it to you for your test or your user acceptance training environments. So you can do your training, you can do your testing as well. We don't charge extra.
Excellent. Just one more question in relation to that. How long roughly do they take to implement? Does it vary or?
It definitely varies. So, you know, something as simple as the DAX file, that's really simple. We would install the add-on or we would install the extension. To install an extension takes 10 minutes, 15 minutes. An add-on can be a little bit longer because then on old Nav, we have to log into your server, copy the files across, upload them. You know, it's not as quick, but it's still within today. You need a little bit of training, maybe 30 minutes, and you're up and running with DAX. So, you know, if you're in a real rush, it can be done very, very quickly. Credit control notepad, you might have a team of people who need some training, and there's the agreed payments, there's making notes, there's creating to-dos, there's how your screen looks, the reports that are available. So it's a few hours training, and it might be in a few sessions, you know, 4 or 5 people per group. That can take, obviously, a lot longer. And if you're doing something like the communication engine, you've got an old legacy system, you're not sure how it communicates, somebody's going to have to do some research from our consultants. That might actually take days or weeks before you're up and running. So it depends how complicated it is. The simple ones, very quick and easy. Obviously the complex ones, it takes a bit of time.
We've got 2 more questions actually. So one was around the costs, so I can answer that. So that's definitely a question to speak to the sales team about. If you get in touch with us, we can put them in touch with you and let you know the cost of the different extensions or add-ons, and also whether it was a monthly or yearly subscription. As with most things, there is the option to do monthly or yearly, so we can work that out accordingly. And then one more question was, can you just remind, somebody has asked how you can tell if the extension is already installed on your system. That was through the settings at the beginning?
That was, yeah. So right at the beginning, I'll take you there again. If you go and have a look at your extension management, here we have a list of all the extensions that are installed on your system. Just wait for the list to come up. So that's everything that is installed. If you're expecting something else, half an hour ago you said, oh, install this, or you asked us to do it for you. Up in the Manage section on the ribbon, you can look at the installation status, and this will show you if there is anything currently installing, or if something tried to install and failed. You get a different status here saying installing or failed. If it's failed, you'll get an error code. You can let us know, or somebody outside will pick it up. This also gives you a history of when it was uploaded and by who. So yeah, there's a dates on there somewhere. Yeah, that's when this was uploaded. So you can see I've been doing things today and yesterday. I was uploading these extensions. So that's where you can get a history as well.
Great, that's all the questions. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you found that useful. Thank you to Ian for demoing the highlighted add-ons, really. As we've said before, they're all available on the website. Do have a look, and if you want any further information, get in touch and we'll be happy to help. Thanks very much, Ian, and thank you everyone for joining today.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.